Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is Markets in the Morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd. I can't believe it's October 7th. October 2nd, 2024. And I still feel like I have to remind myself every time I say 2024 instead of 2023. And at least today I did remember to turn the audio on to play the intro there. But let's do it again. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. It's Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the cryptocurrency market, including the Bitcoin price chart, along with the altcoin market. As we get ready for the U.S. stock market to open up in the next 2 minutes, we'll, of course, take a peek over there, precious metals like gold, and then the U.S. dollar currency index, or the DXY, following it up with financial news, crypto news, and hanging out with you guys in the chat on this fine Wednesday. Looks like we got the stock market about to open up here in 2 minutes. We will open slightly to the down. Looks like the Russell's down about 7 points. Dow Jones flat, literally at 0.00, negative 2 points, just right there on the edge. You got the NASDAQ down 38 points and the S&P down 12.5. You got some mixed bag over here in crypto after yesterday's big move that we saw over there in the market. So we'll talk all about that today. Metals, you got gold slightly down about $6, but you got silver up about 47 cents. So you got kind of a washing machine between the two different ones going on over there. We had a move over there in markets yesterday, of course, with the Russell. It's just almost a meme at this point. There's Bitcoin on top of the Russell 2000, just turning on Bitcoin on top of Russell. It's just a big fat waiting game at this point on this thing. But we'll go ahead and dive into the price action in there. We see Bitcoin fell right on top of a support level right there. We'll see if that one can hold itself for a little while here. The big thing for me, of course, is like what we talked about in the video on Monday, the last video that was put out, and just more time spent thinking about these things and talking about these. We were talking about ABC corrections right on Monday. We're talking about what recovery structures look like, the different forms that they can take, how they can go back to a third range boundary, or they can spend a long time down here at the lows in different forms of just hanging out down here at the lows. Seeing the kind of move that we had yesterday just kind of solidifies that it's like, oh boy, the thing nobody wants to hear is there's always team up, there's team down, and then there's team sideways. And the joke is there is nobody on team sideways because bears want to make money, bulls want to make money, but nobody is happy when things go sideways, except for day traders, because they just day trade the range. So day traders can trade ranges, and they're the ones who are happy, but team sideways is typically not great for bears or bulls. The move that we ended up seeing yesterday, pretty common to actually see in these types of recovery structures, and these are all the things that we're talking about on Monday. And if we were somewhere where we're only like halfway through on the recovery, right? We've seen things of breadth opening up. These are things that happen when lows are marked and recoveries are beginning. These are things that happen in here. But even in here, it was the same kind of story. It was ABC, right? Or ABC, right? So this one, of course, took a long time, but of course it took a long time to get here. This took almost a year to get to here, and then takes about the equivalent amount of time to get all the way over to have it completed at that point. So, that's just kind of where we're at. And I worry for the sentiment of the market in something like this, because there's a group of people in here that when I talk about it, they always remember it. And they're like, oh God, that was so brutal. That's when we talk about 22.5 cents for XRP and that time period of what that was like back then. And people are always like, oh man, that was so rough. That was so tough. And that's kind of like this thing. It's like you have already hit the 22.5. It's like you've already been there, but it's having to kind of go through the process of accumulating through all of that and trading the ranges back and forth to eventually get there. right? We talked about it on Monday on like, what things would be like if it was more of like a crash, retrace, reaccumulation, that, you would have thought that this would have been more violent to come back down here to get that. So that's why we spent more time yesterday or Monday, excuse me, talking more about things like this, kind of this lower accumulations, more of Wyckoff accumulation structures in here. And really, this is just super common to happen in here. And I posted about this on Twitter yesterday that, we're looking for an ABC, but I'm actually still just not even convinced that this is actually even the beginning of it. That you could see even more come out of here before one would begin to form in here, and just kind of examples of that happening in there before those ABCs come out. So just kind of looking at it from that context, the opportunity that it brings here is to be like, all right, if this is an accumulation schematic, researching and figuring out what were those things and those traits amongst those ones that were able to recover and go off into new highs. And some things, of course, are signaling those things, like those bottoms are in, right? Like we've seen that breadth open up in there. To see this actual behavior happen here in the market on things like SWE, these are not things that are happening, right? When we're trending down still. I think we showed this, we overlaid this, and so like the dynamic has changed in here. With SWE, though, well, I have it. I've got a nice sized bag of it. I know it's exciting out there, but even this one, like I just see it still correcting at some point. I'm not day trading it, but to just be mindful of it, of how high it has now gotten in here. And this is what we've talked about for the last 2 months, is we compared this one to what happened. And I think SWE is going to be a big winner. However, even in here, this thing probably still has more accumulating to do. I don't think this one's going to set a new low by any means, but I think broken resistance probably is going to get tested as a support. So as we're kind of going through these things and we're going through, waddling through in here, there's probably some stuff that is going to trend into a new low. There's some stuff that is not going to trend into a new low, but it's the whole market happening in here. And in general, I do not think the market will go into a new low. I think we're in accumulation. I think the thing is going to psychologically break people. And like you kind of have to remember, like we talk a lot about emotions and content creation and how it's tailored to you during certain particular moments. And that content creation will be incredibly tailored towards your bullish greed during time periods like this. I would expect in here that the content creation and narratives will much more tailor towards doom time, towards the end of the worlds. Because that's really kind of where the crowd is at right now. The crowd favors that type of narrative right now. I'm going to go the opposite of that, not just because that's what I want to do or that I in any way enjoy being on the opposite side of the crowd. It just tends to end up working out that way. That when we're in accumulations, the crowd's usually on the opposite side. When we're at peaks, the crowd's usually on the opposite side. My genuine thoughts are this is an actual accumulation. I do not know how long it will last in here, but that's just kind of where I'm at this point. So that's where we're at. Nothing really crazy sparked in here. Of course, just like it continues to be in here. 4-year cycles, block reward halvings, or is it tied to expansionary forces in broader markets? I don't know why we argue that at all, but we do. Another example of that, of course, is taking a look over there at the BLX, which is the Bitcoin Liquid Index. This is going to take us back the furthest in time that we can go to monitor Bitcoin's price over history with the block reward halvings. We are at, I believe, 165 days post-halving. A lot of people use the halving as their hypothesis and 4-year cycles and all that good gravy in there. Bitcoin is down 4% since its halving that took place back in April of this year. That has never happened to be 165 days and be negative. And we can look back to past halvings. The one back in 2013, by this point, you were up 860%. Go back to 2016, you were plus 40%. And go back to 2020, and you were plus 50%. So the halving theory, of course, is being tested. But again, I just genuinely believe this is the thing that matters in here, expansionary forces. Now, Liz on Sanders posted over there on Twitter today. She showed a lot of economic data going on out there and even showed the breadths, right? So we've been talking about breadth in markets over in here. You know what? Let me go grab her tweet. Let me show you this. Sorry. We're going to sit here in silence for half of a second while we go do this. Liz on Saunders. I wanted to show you this because we've been talking about breadth happening in here for the market now, and that this thing hasn't thrown a false signal. The only time it threw one up and then the market went down was COVID. It was COVID right back in here in 2020. Otherwise, you've never had a false throw happen in here, and you definitely never had it even tease one time during 2022. Where is it? Here it is. All right, so we're gonna go through individually a couple of these things to kind of show a couple of things showing up in here, what she is showing too. And this is the interesting thing because we talk about this a lot, right? We talk a lot about the relationship between breadth and opening in broader markets. And obviously the Russell has not broken out, and there's Bitcoin, but there's been a slight improvement over here in breadth in broader markets. Look at this, right? So our last 1 year, right? So the breadth for the 1 year, right? As we've been talking about, it's been at 11%. Right now, it's now up to 17% are doing better than the S&P 500 index. Still, that's the worst since GFC, Great Financial Crisis. This is absolutely atrocious for breadth-wise, that only 17% of stocks are outperforming the S&P 500 index. But over these last few months, we've gotten some pretty decent readings happening in here for breadth improvement, right? You can see for the last month, 61%, 2 months, 70%, 3 months, 49%. And it kind of tails off because this is what we're all dealing with. But these last few months, we've gotten a little bit of better breadth to start to show up in here. So hopefully that trend can continue and bring that thing out of there. And that's the thing that tends to matter for the crypto market far more than halving stuff. I've tried to talk about that a lot. The halving is just something that happens to supply dynamics for Bitcoin, not to demand. It doesn't impact the demand. It only impacts the supply, and not even impacting supply, but just impacting the inflationary rate of the supply. But the demand function of the cryptocurrency market is determined by this stuff, right? Happening over here. There you go. All right. I thought I would just show you that little glimmer of hope there, show you kind of what the breadth has looked like for just a little while at least, right? And this has improved. So a lot of times we talk about, say, the breadth's only 11%. Well, now we can say 17, right? So still the worst ever, but a slight improvement happening over in there. So, all right. There we go. Oh my goodness, you guys, I apologize. Happy Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my It is Wednesday.
All right, there we go. Happy Wednesday, everybody. All right. So there you have it. Dow Jones is now open, down 139 points. The Russell's down 10 points. The S&P's down 31. The Nasdaq's down 105. I think the Nasdaq was down 1.5% yesterday. So quite a move over there. Red day over there in stocks. Once again, you got United Health, Netflix, and AMC in the green. On the slaughtered side, you got Tesla, Ford, and Coinbase. And they're not slaughtered, but in the red, you got Tesla, Ford, Coinbase, Meta, and ARK, and Roblox, all at over 1%. And then, United Health, Netflix, and AMC up there at the top. As the Russell 2000 just still continues to play its games, unwilling to get itself out. And Bitcoin plays the game with it. So, all right, there we go. Accumulation. I think, my biggest concern is definitely not going into new lows. It's not my concern. My concern is the sentiment of people in this type of environment, because we've been through several of these before together. And what happens is enough time passes that people just get utterly beat up in these things. And I think that is the thing I'm more concerned about than any type of crashing and crumbling happening from here. It's more of just, how long is this thing going to take and how are people going to react going through all of that? I think the thing to just think about is, hey, it's October. You got the holidays. You got vacations to plan. There you go. And then when we come back and everything is great, vroom, go firing for it, right? Firing for extensions. And then and it's all over after that. But there you go. That's what we got going on. I think it's just going to be a little bit in here. And I would not be surprised to see this thing just eventually recover and just shoot right back up in here and then just have to waddle on for some time happening in here. And I think that kind of solidified it with the move that we saw yesterday. So, all right, there you go. I think we got all of that. Just kind of even just little examples of it in here. We'll go back here just so I don't have to do more work. We could just be throwing back, hanging out in here, and then revisit these highs. And I think people would get YOLO'd, and then it would just kind of continue on. So remember, recovery structures, that's the name of the game right now. Patience, we've done the bulk of it. We've had the VIX insanity happen down in here. I think things are okay. I think it's just going to take a minute in here. So, all right, there you go. That's what's going on in crypto. I think we're ranging, and I genuinely would not be surprised if in a week or two we're back up in here all over again. So, okay, there you go. Gold, 26 of 54 with the DXY at 101.53. So still waiting for gold to say, hey, we're ready, we're done, to start changing direction. It's still just kind of holding itself up in here. What is this? Oh yeah, here we go. So there you go. Bitcoin. So again, this was supposed to be shown with, where did it go? This, right? There's your block rewards. There's all your block reward stuff. We're now beyond any time of any moment in history of how long Bitcoin has ever taken ever. And then that was supposed to lead into this right here. And then being like, because this is your true deciding moment. This is exactly what's going to tell us that it's time to go, is this bad boy. Okay, there you go. Moving on over to crypto news. Oh, here we go. Derek Daniels. I'll answer that question real quick. Hey, BCB, God bless you. Is the idea that rate cuts will crush the stock market out the window? If not, how does that play into the thesis that will go sideways? So with rate cuts, the way things have worked is that you see rallies happen into them, right? So like if we look back to 2019, 2020 for the crypto market, we really rallied up into them. Let's pull up the Matic chart. This one, I don't think it's this one. I don't even know if we're going to be able to find it on here anywhere. Here, maybe on Sweet. No, here. Oh my, you're going to find it. Stinks. Sorry, I'm just having to rebuild a chart. What is going on here? Okay, we're on the wrong time frame. Right, so this is what we were at when we were going into rate cuts, right? So we can throw rate cuts on top of here. Nothing is out the window when it comes to what has happened. You have all these different setups that have happened. The thing is that crypto's already done it. Like crypto has already got decimated, right? It hits its 702 retracement and goes through decimation already. I think the thing to be more concerned about is if there's going to be a C19 style crash after if crypto starts rallying back up into retracements again. And all of that is covered in the last video that was just published out in there. So like I said, it'll always be in the back of my mind that it's there. I'm just looking at how dude, this thing is going so slow. No, the wrong one. Just we rallied up first, right? And I would expect that would be the fear point, right? So if something like this happened, right, which was talked about in the video, if we got up in here, that's still gonna be that fear of that happening. However, just structurally, that we've already done a 58% move, I just don't think it's gonna happen in here. And I think that a lot of people, and like the way I keep kind of explaining it in here, is we are all operating in a different game right now. Nobody's models are working. And if you can't see that no models are working in here, and I happen to say that something different is at play, and I think we've just kind of beaten that with the stick to say, look, you can look at, okay, so this is your longest expansion you've ever had. None of them have ever taken longer than this. So you can look at, where's the BLX chart? Is that what I messed up? Here. Because this one will go all the way back. Every 4-year cycle, block reward halving thesis, we have never taken longer than this. And I'm not even talking about block reward halvings and the amount of time after block reward halvings. For it to take a full bear and go into recovery, it has never taken this long. Okay, so operating on the 4-year cycle, the 4-year block reward halving, all that stuff, these things are all completely out the window at this point. Things I've shown in the altcoin market happening in here. There has never been a time ever where the altcoin market goes back to the 702 retracement and then gets annihilated by it. Never, right? So these were all things we're talking about and warning about and being like, look, these things are different. It's weird. The Fed's going to cut and there's no breadth happening in the stock market in this. And we're having to operate on new, on different mindsets. And I think it's going to be, and I know it is, very difficult for a lot of people, not just saying 4-year cycles, block reward halvings, things repeat every 4 years, because the behavior of the market is very different in here. So when you have to do that, you're going to have to make different hypotheses and theses of what's going to happen, right? There's your expansion. There's your 702 retracement. This is like doing this here, right? This time is different, right? And I'm not sitting here saying this time is different because retail sentiment, you get it. We talk about it all the time. When people are saying ETFs, this time is different. Really? Why did... this time is different because of ETFs, right? Oh, really? Yeah, it's definitely different because of ETFs. Because look what happened to the market due to the ETFs. This time is different because ETFs were not good, right? So like talk FTX. This time is different because of FTX. This time is different because Elon Musk is buying Bitcoin and putting it on Tesla's balance sheet. This time is different because C19 is happening. I'm not talking about those kinds of this time is different. I'm talking about that the market is operating differently than what we've seen before. And my general thesis of the market is along the lines of this, in that this is accumulation, and that we get one push of this range. And then after this range, and it could be very, very short-lived, it could be very fast, very quick, and then things get rough right after that. And that it's not some really, really long, prolonged market cycle to end up happening in there, and that these issues will come to fruition. They will come to be something of a problem, and that if Bitcoin does set a new all-time high, I think what people will be looking for is something massive, or the start of a new cycle, or something really big. And like the max target I could even put on Bitcoin is 107,000. And that's, even if it does happen, is $107,000 is the max number I could put on Bitcoin. And that's not even 100% from right now. So that would be very different than what the rest of the market is thinking is going to happen, and operating completely different. So do the Fed stuff, does it mess with me psychologically? Definitely, because that's always behaved. It's hard to say always when we've only had like 3 circumstances of it, but it's definitely creating different dynamics in the market. And I think people don't recognize that there's different dynamics in the market. We still hear about banana zone. I still see it all the time. Banana zone, it's coming. Banana zone failed, man. Right? I mean, we realized this was banana zone. That was banana zone. And it failed in there. And I'm not convinced we won't get something like that. But like we've talked about in videos and discussions, there was no breadth in the market. There was nothing ready to go in this market. And I think this is creating an accumulation schematic happening in here to eventually be able to give another push. But even this, I think people will be looking for a really long crypto market. They'll be looking for, a year-long bull run in Bitcoin. They'll be looking for a year-long run in altcoins. And I think with the things that we're seeing, and we're talking about with the Fed, and we're talking about with breadth and everything, and the extensions that the stock market has gone, I think this would be the final breath of the market, the last breath before things have to spend a lot more time in here. And, that's the way I think about it. I think we're playing a different game, and not having to think of it from that manner. This is not right. Like a lot of people just run in the same mindset and create content thinking about things the same way. What's the safe way to talk about it? Right. The safe way to talk about it is be like Fourier cycles. The safe way to talk about it is, block reward halvings, and we repeat every 4 years due to magic, and they can hide under that blanket of saying, "Oh wow, this time acted different. Nobody saw that coming. It just acted different." But there are things that are different, and to fall 58% in here, I think, is your key. That it is definitely different, and yeah, I think that plays a role. I mean, I think it all plays a role. I just have a hard time thinking that two things, right? When it comes to the Fed, right? I have a hard time believing it's going to crash any more than it can. I think it's already just kind of priced that in. I think it's just already done it, right? And that's what we put about in the video 2 weeks ago. Talking about 58% crash, replaying all the stuff from November, which you guys just hated, being forced to watch a video that long on repeat and have commentary on it. But I think the market just priced that in already. Alternatively, the thing that I talked about on Monday, to say it's still just going to be in the back of my head as kind of that worry and kind of that concern, is the C19 stuff. I personally, and I've said this many times on my channel, I think C19 was just a cop-out for the price action that happened in the United States stock market, and that it actually was a structure that needed to happen in the United States stock market, because we talk about double tap, bull flag, breakout, back test, V bottoms, right? And that this was a great cop out to say this is C19 that ends up causing this happening in here, but it was the dynamic of the market occurring in here, right? And of course, what's the same dynamic that you have in here? We talk all about that. There's the Russell. Notice the Russell. No breadth, right? No breadth in there. This is the one example we point to with the Dow Jones, where the Dow Jones broke out into the new all-time high, but the Russell didn't have breadth and everything ends up falling. The concern I have, like I said, where's my chart? I have too much going on the screen. Okay. Concern I have is if it has to do, if that's what's coming, right? Is that if that would be the case of the same C19 style stuff, because that's where we were in Bitcoin at that time. So, for example, here, that's C19, right? That's an ABC. That's where the Fed is cutting. I'm not doing this to scare the daylights out of you because I'm not convinced this is what's happening, guys, but I'm just showing it to you. Right? The whole rise happens during a Fed cut, right? And then this whole rise happens when? During a Fed pause, excuse me. The whole rise happens during a Fed pause. The whole rise happens during a Fed pause happening in here, right? The thing is, I just find it unlikely. I just find it unlikely that's what's happening. Due to kind of forecasting a 58% drawdown way ahead of time, and then prices doing that, and we're getting the full thing happening in there. And then we're just doing normal accumulation schematics in here and wave count. So we can just kind of count them all out in here. So I just don't see it on the chart. On the back of my mind, do I think this is how things hit the fan with the Fed? Of course, it's in the back of my mind, but I just don't see it on the chart. What I see on the chart is the market already got decimated, the 58% after hitting the 702 retracement, that it already did it. And I see that there are accumulation schematics in here. And then, on top of that, right, we see that the breadth has started to move up. The problem with the breadth is the only time that it has a signal on here is from 4.5 years ago, and that was before C19 happened, right? So, yeah, it still sits there a little bit, but I'm just not a believer that that's going to come at this point. I do think we've done everything we need to do, but I think long term, like I am still totally convinced, long term, we are creating the long-term tops of the equity bubbles in the United States stock market. And once that comes to a conclusion and once that comes to an end, Bitcoin likely will too. And that is a not well-received statement to make. Problem is, you have to prove to me, Bitcoiners, you have to prove to me that you're just not an equity, that you're just not a risk-on asset, and you're not expanding. Bitcoin's not expanding because the stock market's not expanding. Bitcoin's moving right along with the market. It's doing all the same stuff. And I think the day that the equity bubble comes to a conclusion, it's likely the same for Bitcoin. So, and again, that is and I tell you this, I'm tired of like fighting the crowd. I don't want to be that. They want to create a villain. They want to create a bad guy for everybody to rally against and say, this is the bad guy. We're all rallying against him. I have no interest in being that person. I just want to present you these data facts, and you can decide for yourself what you think of them. Do you think the Fed cutting is going to lead to a C19 crash? That's fine. It's up to you, man. I could show you all the data to say, yeah, there probably is some concern there, but I could show you other things to say, I think it's already crashed enough. You can sit here and you can say it's the block reward halvings, and that's the things that matter. I can show you the data to say, well, it doesn't really suggest that. It actually suggests that it's actually equity markets that end up mattering, and that's why you haven't gone off yet, because you haven't gone into expansion in equity markets. Here's all the examples of Bitcoin's block rewards historically. It hasn't gone. I could show you all the examples of how the Russell 2000 breaks out, and that's when Bitcoin breaks out, when there are expansionary movements happening in broader markets. So, look at that. Who's up today? Russell is up today, right? Crypto flipping green now, right? Like, it just is what it is. But your question is Fed cutting. I think we've done it. 55% crash. I think that was it. All right, we were going to news. Let's go to the news. All right, Tesla stock slip. North Korea infiltrated by crypto industry. Bitcoin regained 61K and worst start to the most bullish month. Okay. Have we learned our lessons yet from saying that months are bullish or bearish yet? That's 2 Septembers in a row where people have said September is bearish and then it turns green. And then October. Don't focus on the month. Bitcoin regains 61K. Bitcoin ETFs bleed. Okay. I'm going to do a better job not going through the news so much here. Telegram has been disclosing user IP since 2018. Bitcoin traders see 54K Bitcoin price are lower amid Middle Eastern tensions. Let's go look at where 54K is. Down here. I could see 54K, but I think it would have to take a long time to get there like this. Something like this that would beat people up really bad. Back to the news. Hamster combat tappers evolve. I for some reason have this feeling that Cointelegraph is like VCs of hamster combat. We don't ever hear about hamster combat anywhere. Like nobody talks about it on Twitter. Never heard about it anywhere. But we come on here and they have it on here for some reason in the news. Has crypto market bottomed? Look out for these 5 keywords. It must be Santiment. I know Santiment's been real active over there on Twitter. Definitely worth a follow. Bitcoin tanks, gold rebounds as Israel vows Iran will pay for their attack. XRP price breaks 3.5-year downtrend as analyst predicts $200. Oh my gosh. Here's the whole cold hard reality. If XRP hits $200, I will have already sold all of my XRP and had stopped making YouTube videos way before that ever happened. I'd be long gone. People would be making YouTube videos about me. Blockchain backer so too early. What a chump. I would have been long gone before that ever ended up happening. NFT sales plummet to lowest monthly volume since 2021. Crypto Slam. Hey, we were just talking about Crypto Slam. Debunking the Binance manipulator theory. 3 reasons why the allegation falls short. Bitcoin price falls as global recession and AI bubble fears send investors scrambling. FTX creditors to receive only 10 to 25% of their crypto back. CZ walks free. Law decoded. There we go. We got through it. All right. Looking over here at Fed, right? So 66% chance that there's going to be a cut at the next meeting, which is 36 days away. We will spend a whole lot less time talking about the Fed these days as we have finally moved away from the hiking cycle. We have moved away from the pausing cycle. And then now it's just cut time, right? And none of it. We're in the cutting cycle now at this point. Spending time talking about it all the time is not going to be important. So I won't beat you up with that. I will make one comment, though. One thing that we did notice last time is that the 2-month pretty much accurately gave us an idea of how much that the Fed was going to cut. Right now, the market has priced in a 66% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut and a 33% chance of 50 basis point rate cut. The 2-month, we'll keep an eye on that and see if it accurately predicts it again. As of right now, the 2-month has not predicted anything. It has not made any change from the last one. So when we get closer to that in 30 days or so, we'll check back in on this again and we'll see if we have a divided market in here. We'll see if this gives it to us, because in our last one, the market was super divided. What was it at, like 40-60 or 45-55 55%. No, the market did not know what to price it in, so we'll look at it closer as that time comes in there. So, all right, there you go. Moves happening over here in markets for the Russell. It's nice to see the Russell in the green, and then a little bit of slipping back into the green over there for the crypto market. Again, SupercraSY has all the signs so far of being the 2024 version of Solana, but at least from a chart perspective, right? No, I'm not talking about blockchain, but chart perspective. But again, this is the one that, like, man, I'm super happy I own it. I'm super happy we talked about it at the bottom. It's been the best performer, so no doubt recently. But kind of in that phase where this thing could take a deeper correction. So just caution out there, keep the FOMO in check. It's likely accumulation and recovery structures that are happening in here. So this is from our last conversation. Somebody asking about Fed sell-offs. There you go. What is it at? 188 for SupercraSY. That's insane. All right, there you go. Derek Daniels, thank you, brother. AM, hey, backer, listener for years. I appreciate you, and I believe you mentioning Arrow some times ago with your metric research. Assuming breadth within the greater market, is Arrow something that still piques your interest? Arrow was the thing about Arrow was you could state one of the base assets, right? And it was giving like 250% APR. If you were locking up and market making with your stake, with your Arrow, and that was the thing that was very interesting about it. The volatility on Arrow, I don't know, man. I personally don't own Arrow right now, and it's not that Arrow could end up being something massive in this market. But it does not show up on like developer activity. It doesn't show. I don't know why it doesn't show up on TVLs or anything like that. Let's go. We can take a look. Let me see it. DeFi Llama. I normally do not answer these questions about Arrow, but we have talked about Arrow before, and it was interesting at one point. Let's take a look. Base. So there you go. Airdrome Finance, number one. TVL, 1.1 billion. Oh, it's doing it. TVL, man. It's killing it. I may have missed that one. Problem is the chart is so ridiculously volatile. So there you go. There was the high from back in March and April. And there you go. Boom. You guys could check those things out on DeFiLlama.com, a place I am not sponsored by because I have no sponsors. And that's why I can not have to perpetuate a narrative of everything is sunshines and rainbows because I have no one to appease. I can piss off everybody. All right. Sneepy, IRL, a new member, welcome. Oh, and AM, thank you very much. Let's see. Like, this chart is so insane, though. The volatility, I don't know why this line's on there. Maybe it was on this. There you go. There it is. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, that's just a real tough one. Tough one because you're on top of a support, but if this whole market is going to be doing this type of stuff, hard to argue that this thing is going to shoot to a straight line up. The reason why this one, like, I'm scared to even say anything on it. Look how big these ranges are. That's 160%. If I commented and said, oh yeah, I mean, it could probably keep going, just to go back down to the bottom of the range, lose 50%. It's just massive ranging happening in here. You could, right. I don't know. Nervous about it. Because of how high, and if this market just keeps kind of ranging in this area for a little while, how big those volatility moves could be in there for Arrow. But only reason my mouth is still even rambling about it is because of that TVL. That TVL was interesting. So Gibbs, member for 6 months, because this time is different. My brother, thank you. Nobody, just a witness. This bull run is going to be short and sweet, in my opinion. In my opinion, when? LOL. Everybody wants to know when. We all want to know when. And this would be the most painful version of it. And so, hey, content creators, you got 3 months to be real toxic and bearish for people, if that happened. Then turn it up. Turn up the bull. This is going to be short and sweet. Yep. I think when it gets going, it could be very short and sweet. I really do. I was playing around with them yesterday to see how long can these things last. For example, like even in these, we were talking about 4.236 extensions. Look how brutal this one was. This one hits the 4.236 extension in here, but it takes 2 routes to get there. Right? It comes up here and it gets to the 2.618, falters all the way back down to then finally get to the 4.236 extension of that range. Alternatively, when XRP breaks out, it gets there in 10 days for the same thing. So, yeah. Like I was talking about this yesterday with people. I was saying, I'm really not willing to touch it with a 10-foot pole of how long these things could last. And I think that's the right thing to do. I think my track record on timing is horrid. And I've always said if I could go live in the woods and they're in the jungle somewhere for 3 months or something with like no food, and if at the end of it I could come out of it and be able to accurately predict time, I would do it. But nobody is capable of predicting time yet consistently. Somebody will always nail it, and then everybody's like, "Oh, it's the new guru." But then just to be able to consistently do it is just so difficult. The best thing I can do is, like we talked about yesterday, is kind of say, well, I can give you examples of how long these things have lasted, and examples were like halfway. And I hope that's not the case. I know nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear team sideways for a little bit of time, and I don't want to be the guy to say that. But I can just show you how it is, and why I'm not really worried about what happened here in the last day or two. I don't think it really was anything. Not day or two, day. The thing that happened in the last day. I'm not really that worried about it. But I'm not. I'm also not on we're surging to the upside. I think we're in recovery structures happening in here, and sentiment usually gets really beat up in it. And so kind of the best thing to do for me is to go into it with that of, this might take a little time. It always does. When we do have recovery structures, they take a little bit of time. But ultimately, what am I looking for? I'm looking for us to not get rejected by the 702 when we return back to this range, and then it fires through. And if you recall, that's the 702 of the entire thing in here, and that we would actually blast right through it that time. I think that would be the one that we actually get through it, and that the extension I'll be looking for is going to be up in here. And so that's my mindset. Like use appropriate words. Being bull, I'm being a bull. I'm being a bull. Just as we were down here, guys. Remember, we were a bull down here. Remember, we went to the cruel summer. It's all the things we talked about. We talked about the ABC of the cruel summer. And then, ultimately what happened with sentiment. It was actually absolutely destroyed. But then things just fired off and went fun. And then when did the crowd become cocky and arrogant and we're going to the moon and it's never coming back down? It's not until you get to the top. And that's, I think, where we're going. I think we're kind of working through that, where the crowd is now kind of like just beat up. I think they'll remain beat up for a little bit. But that we're just working on building a base to then fire off and get all the way up in here. And then once we do, hopefully, that's what I'm planning on. Hopefully, once we do, then it'll be about trying to pick these things out. Because I think the worst part would be if we're kind of fighting over it on being like, hey, we're going to get there really fast, or oh gosh, where are you? if it's something that's going to be real drawn out. So your comment is, it'll be short and sweet. The moves are, alt seasons are, expansions in crypto always are. Do not ever think for half a second when things are really exciting in the market that they're going to last longer than weeks. They always come to a conclusion. But how long and the exact dates and all that stuff, I wish I had the answer. I just don't. CD says, if we waddle around here for an ABC, doesn't that mean that the breadth indicator will go down, hence giving a false signal? No, it doesn't, because that's what it did back here. Waddling around with breadth is exactly what it's doing. It's implying the bottom's in, right? It's implying that after a period of no breadth, we have now started recovery, right? And this is an impulsive wave with an ABC, right? Then another impulsive wave with an ABC, right? Breadth dies during the ABC, and then another 3-wave impulsive wave, right? And then breadth completely dies. So this is implying that it's starting, right? Breadth is opening and it's starting again. We're coming out of the period of doom. We're coming out of the period of doom. It doesn't mean straight line up. It didn't mean straight line up right here. But it implies that that should be the bottom, right? Thank you, brother. Steve Melling, member for 10 months. Are we going to talk about the spot XRP ETF in crypto news? Oh. Okay. Bitwise filed for a XRP ETF. People have commented on it on, obviously. I really don't care right now. Here's why. How has Bitcoin done since the ETFs? How has Ethereum done since it's had its ETF? Right? It didn't matter. It didn't matter. XRP also used to have an XRP trust. Everybody runs with it. There's a new XRP trust for only accredited investors right now. Cool. I think the big thing that is overhanging on the market for XRP, unquestionably, is in 5 days, we have the deadline for the SEC to appeal some of the Ripple ruling. And everybody's kind of waiting around to wonder what that will look like, right? I don't know. I don't know if it even has any impact on XRP's price at all. I don't have it. If it does have an impact, doesn't have an impact. I don't know if it'll have an impact. If price sells off due to it, people will yell at me. CBC Parker, Moon Boy, XRP, what now? I don't know what's going to happen after that. I think the whole market is waiting to see what is going to happen at that. It's hard to even care about an ETF until let's just get through next Monday and see what happens there. And because did the Bitcoin ETFs do anything? No. Did the Ethereum ETFs do anything? No. So, it's not that. It's more of like, let's just get through the thing that actually is legitimately close in 5 days. And that is whether or not there's going to be an appeal. And does that even matter? And what does that look like? What do they say? So that's what we're kind of waiting on. Chris Conroy says, have you done any wave counts on the Russell? So with the Russell, I've definitely sat there and tried. I do not have a wave count on the Russell. I think that, at least if you're talking about in this particular range. So for me with the Russell, if it escapes, right, my thoughts aren't even that this is a massive move for the Russell, that it would be monstrous happening in here. It's going to be the same stuff we get criticized for, and that's completely fine. It's going to be that I'm just looking to see if this is the target of where it's going to, and if there's going to be confluence to happen with that. If the Russell just kind of gets up in here, right, and if this is where we can kind of get to, and if at that exact same point you have a confluence event happening, of that at the exact same time, that's where I'll be screaming. But with the Russell where it's currently at right now, it's really just about you're stuck in some retracements. You can't get out of there. If you can get out of there, that would be fantastic. But, Russell has a green day. Stock market red. Russell is green. Bitcoin green. So nobody, just a witness, gifted 1 BCB membership. Brother, thank you very much. If you guys could, please like the live stream. It's super important that you do. So, all right, there we go. What are we at? We're at 55 minutes. So let's kind of go through a wrap up on where we're at right now. My thoughts are that this has just been part of the accumulation. Boy, I've just like messed up all my charts as the stream has gone on with all the different questions and closing all my stuff out. Let's see if this is still down here. That this was really just kind of part of it. I think if you didn't watch Monday's video, I suggest you go watch Monday's videos. The stuff, all the stuff that we've talked about in here, breadth opening, all those things, those are signals of what happens when a bottom is in. But now it's, how long is this thing going to take on a recovery structure and what will that look like? So we go through all the different examples. I've shown a couple of examples in here. Overall, I'm optimistic on the market. I think it's just going to take a minute in here if that's the way it's going to end up playing out. So watch the video, look at the examples of them in there. As for the stock market today, where are you, Russell? The Dow Jones down 82 points, the Nasdaq down 15, coming off of a pretty big red day for the Nasdaq yesterday and for the Russell. But the Russell is up slightly, the S&P is up or down slightly. Precious metals kind of a washing machine over there. You got silver up, but you have gold down. Mixed day over here in broader markets, just in general right now. I did show something from Liz on Saunders earlier in the live stream talking about breadth. As you guys know, we've talked about the S&P 500. The breadth has been 11% of stocks have been outperforming the actual index itself due to the consolidation and lack of breadth in the market for the last year. That has improved now. It's up to 17% now. And the last 3 months have been pretty decent, like 60%, 70%, around those numbers, 50, 60, 70% breadth has been happening in the stock market now here for the last couple of months. And hopefully that can continue and get an actual expansion to happen. The year-over-year figure has bumped up from 11 to now 17%. Still, the worst that we've had. It is bad, but the last 3 months have been pretty good. So we'll see if that can end up improving itself. Otherwise, no news to speak of. Everybody's on edge in the XRP community, of course, for next Monday, which is going to be the appeal. So by the time we are together again for Markets in the Morning, we will know whether or not the SEC appealed and what does an appeal actually look like. Or do we get to close that chapter of our lives? It has been a dark chapter. I cannot believe it has been 4 years. Pray for the closing of that chapter. I think everybody wants that. I know I do. I don't even know if it matters, but I think everybody would just appreciate that chapter to be closed. So hopefully it does. Otherwise, news-wise, not a whole lot going on out there. In news, just action over here in crypto. So, all right, there we go. That'll do it. We'll go ahead and wrap things up, guys. If you want to check out the newsletter, I, of course, believe that this is just accumulation. I grabbed the dip in here. I go through with like a 90-page, hour and 14-minute recording talking about what I went at, like we just talked about with Arrow, showing you those TVL things in there. I actually didn't get Arrow, but looking at those different factors, those things that matter. And that's a really good thing. That what you saw with Arrow, you saw that uptrending TVL. A lot of times people talk about it. You can really look at a lot of them that are very different stories in there. So check that out. I go into all those details, talk about developer activity, percentage drawdowns, TVL, NFTs, all that different stuff, and why I picked the coins that I did. And then that one took me a long time to do. Of course, check out bcbacker.com. There's links in the descriptions of this video to both of these things right here. The newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com and bcbacker.com. Oh, Chris. See, PTW is on top of it. Chris, or have you done... Wait, no, Chris, I got you, dude. Well, unless it was a different Chris. And unless PTW is late. I got you. All right, but Chris, thank you, man. All right, let's go ahead and go through the wrap-up, guys. I'll give you the frog on the way out. If you could hit the like button on your way out the door, I appreciate it.
It is Wednesday, my dude. It is Wednesday. Dudes.
Oscar. Hi, Oscar. Thank you. He says hit the like. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here. I hope that you are all doing all right. Again, I'm optimistic on this market. Feels good to be that guy. This is where I'm comfortable. This is where I'm used to being. I'm not comfortable or used to being the guy screaming at the market. I'm comfortable being in here, being that guy of the reassurance. That's where I'm at, and that's where I feel good. CB and Jaxer have birthdays today. What? Happy birthday, you guys. All right, you guys. That's going to be it for this one. Wrapping it up. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you could, please hit the like button on your way out the door. Also, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.